Very respectful of the water. I was 8 years in the United States Coast Guard, and I got injured in the Coast Guard, and I was retired. I love the Coast Guard, I love the water, and I've seen a lot of deaths, so I respect the water. I want people to understand that too. You respect everything you do. Enjoy it, live your life, but also respect. Hearing about the collapse of the Francis Scott Bridge in Baltimore, wow, you want to talk about a total memory going crazy in my head. I was one of the first people on scene at that Friday disaster on May 9th in the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. I was actually on call. I was a seaman and I was a deckhand on the boat, the rescue boat. It happened about 7:30 in the morning, I remember it. When we ran to the boat, a SAR alarm goes off. It's called a SAR alarm, which is search and rescue for Coast Guard. And the SAR alarm goes off and we all race to the boat, and the actual information we got was a boat hits the bridge, which was kind of common, but it's usually a small boat that hits one of the pylons in the bridge and they sink and there's people in the water or you're gonna have to rescue them. Well, it wasn't this. We were racing to the bridge as fast as the boat can go. The weather forecast was foggy, squalls, thunderstorms in and out. It was like a good front coming through. And normal for us. Once we got there, it was very foggy at that point, and we look up, and literally, it was eerie silent, and there was a span of the bridge gone. I mean, literally, I remember it like it was yesterday, and that's 45 years ago, 44 years ago. My jaw dropped. This was the Sunshine Skyway Bridge when the Summit Venture, with a 600+ foot ship, hit the main pylon, and 1,200 feet of the bridge actually collapsed into the water. And obviously the radio is getting very busy with what to do. You know, we're a boat on scene, we're looking for rescue, and we're rescuing people. What we didn't know was people literally drove right off the bridge. In fact, there's one picture, and I have the pictures because I took pictures. There was a piece of bridge going like this in the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. There was a car, a truck, a pickup truck, literally right on that spot. You want to talk about like escaping death? It blew me away when we saw that, and we didn't know what was gonna. We didn't even know it was gonna actually go into the water. There was a Greyhound bus that went off the bridge. It was 150 feet, crashed into the water, and literally flattened it. When they picked the Greyhound bus up, it was literally 5-6 feet tall, flattened down. Roof was gone. All the people died. There were 23 people on that bus alone that died. 35 people died that day. So I still remember it like it was yesterday. And I was an 18-year-old young man in 1980. So it was, I turned 19 that year in October. So all I can say was just, it was wild. It was one of the most jaw-dropping incidents that happened. So you want to talk about some disasters. You know, you call it being in the wrong place at the wrong time, I guess, if you want to consider it, or in the right place to help people. It's what I joined the Coast Guard for, is to help people, to be search and rescue. And I love the water. You know, when I did all these disasters, and I caught 3 disasters in a row, which was the Marielitos, the Coast Guard caught a Blackthorn that was in 1980, and that happened in January. And we lost 23 Coast Guard men. And also the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Tampa Bay. It gave me PTSD. Actually, the Coast Guard has awarded me PTSD for that, for saying there's no way you could pick up over 50 dead bodies in the span of a year and not have some kind of emotional toll taken. I believe I'm still okay, but you do have nightmares. You do get up at times. It has taken its toll on me, and when an incident like this happens, it totally flips you another degree. This disaster now It just blew me away because it's kind of similar. I think things could have been prevented.
Hello, thank you for joining us. We begin our report at the remnants of the
Police
Francis
pulled
Scott
the bodies
Key Bridge.
of Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes and Dorlean Castillo Cabrera out of the river. He's reading the logs of 6 fellow construction workers. Men he calls brothers.
They left 35 people dead, and the man that helped pull some of those victims out.
The scope of the accident is enormous. The cargo ship Dolly is almost as long as the...
Now I waited 3 days to do it because I wanted to see exactly what happened. A lot of changes were implemented in 1980 for bridge building, and one of the implications is they have safety buffers, if you want to call them, or safety stanchions where a ship will bounce off of a massive steel concrete pillar that they put before hitting the main structure of the bridge. They didn't have them, that very little things in this one. This bridge was built in 1976, I think, Francis Scott Key Bridge. But what really intrigued me, and I think it was because it happened at 1:30 in the morning, only 6 people died. 8 people went into the water, 2 were rescued, but 8 people went into the water and 6 died. Whereas in the Sunshine Skyway disaster, 35 people died. Now, is that because of the timing? I think it could have been. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge was on a Friday. This was 3 days ago, so it was just at a good time. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at 1:30 in the morning. And this one, it was clear weather, so there's nothing to blame on weather. The cause of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge was weather. The cause of this one was the engine losing all power. The whole entire ship, which was a lot bigger than the ship, is called the Dolly. The Dolly was a Liberian registered boat, a ship that was taking cargo, and it took those big things you see on 18-wheelers, the big cargo, and it had 10,000 containers on it. 10,000 containers. It was very heavy at the time, 100,000 tons plus, and it ended up losing power. Now, there were 2 pilots on the boat, so I'm not blaming pilots, I'm not blaming any. This is literally probably an accident, what I'm seeing so far, and I've been really watching this one pretty good. And going down towards the channel, they left 2 tugboats. I think that's going to change now. I think what's going to happen, although I don't know how it can be done, I think they're going to start demanding that tugboats escort these ships through bridges or some kind of a place that somebody can get killed or a ship can go aground or hit something like that. It actually had to make a turn. It made it turn on its own. If it did not lose power, it would have not hit the bridge, obviously. What happens is they have bow thrusters. People say to me, "Hey, Larry, boats, is it a bow thruster?" Bow thrusters don't work when you're going, they were going like 7 knots, which is kind of normal speed, but it's pretty good speed. You don't use bow thrusters for that. You use bow thrusters near docking and stuff of that nature where you can move the ship this way or that way. The captain or the pilot tried to drop the anchor, but then anchor is never going to work either going at that speed. An anchor is made to drop, hook in the ground, and keep a ship at a specific spot in that location when it's stopped. When you're going at 7 or 8 knots and a drop, but they did drop the port anchor. Now the port anchor was trying to get it where it would slow it down and turn it a little. Obviously it was a little bit too late. The more reports, the more investigations that come out about this, it's going to say what exactly happened. Why didn't the engine kick off? They do have backup generators. They have backup power sources. Because what I saw on all the TV footage of it is it lost power. It gained power back again, and it looked like the generator or something went back on, and it lost it again. So whatever it was, although even a generator would not be enough power to reverse the engines on a ship of that size. People have no idea with ships. It takes you a long time to make turns. It takes you a long time to stop. There's that's why currents and they call it the current, the drifts, the winds, all move a ship a certain way. And if you don't know what you're doing, obviously, I'm not blaming anybody for this. This is what they call a true accident or a true thing. Can it be prevented? Here's where I think it could be prevented. They could be putting these pillars. yes, it's going to cost a lot of money for major shipping lanes to put these protection around bridge main pillars. When that can be done, I think, you're getting a ship that big. You couldn't have stopped it. That bridge was going down no matter what when that kind of a ship hit it. And what really made me think about this thing was the way the bridge fell on the ship. Now, the dolly is almost 1,000 feet long. But if you look at any pictures you'll see in newspapers, and I still have the newspaper clippings from when I was at the scene picking up babies' clothes, picking up, it was crazy what we had to pick up when we were young people at that scene. And what really reminded me of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge so vividly is the way the bridge literally fell over the bow of the ship. The bow is the front part of a ship, the stern is the back end of a ship. And the way the bridge literally collapsed over the bow of the ship is the same thing it did with the Summit Venture in the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. The whole entire thing literally went down. So I think that is pretty indicative. That's why they're comparing this disaster to the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. It has very little bit to compare with: size of ship, depth of stuff, what caused it. Obviously, it was weather related, and that's what the report said on the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. This one was related to a malfunction of engines or something of that nature. The big difference I saw is there is no search and rescue after approximately about 6 hours. The water temperature in Baltimore was, they said, high 40s. That means hypothermia is going to set in very quickly. Hypothermia is what's going to kill someone. So you can't be in a car in that water and survive. You can't be floating around there for 8 hours or 10 hours. You're dead already. Hypothermia killed you. Where in Florida, the water was kind of warm, and we actually set up shop at Egmont Key. Egmont Key is a little island right after the bridge, and that's where we made headquarters. And we would bring dead bodies back. We'd bring all parts of the ship, parts of the bridge that were floating, especially like there were dolls from kids. And all of that's very important. People go, well, why do you care what you pick up? The reason you pick up so much stuff is you have to see the way it's moving, where it's drifting. And this way you can put search parameters around which way an object is actually floating. In fact, if you are on any ship, a cruise ship, and they do what they call a man overboard drill, the first thing anybody does is throw one of those buoys. And it's not for that person, so to speak. Yes, if he can get it. But I don't care if they notice a person is missing after 5 hours. You still throw a buoy. So then you know, and you have a point of contact to where the search starts, what way that drift is going, which way the currents are going. And that's why you throw something overboard. And they have a lot of devices that do that now on their own with boats and stuff like that. They come up automatically onto the surface, and they set what they call a beacon out, and it goes into a satellite, and then the Coast Guard can get there as quick as they can. And whether it's with air assets or boat assets, it will get there pretty quick. And we saved a lot of people in the Coast Guard. This was nobody could save any of the people. They're lucky that 2 people did survive. They literally survived, which is pretty impressive. 8 people went in the water, and they were all people working on the bridge. They were working potholes. In fact, 6 people died in this case, and they were all Hispanic, actually, because they were working. And it really made me say, why all Hispanic? They were working the pothole crew for the road crew to fix the bridge. But you have to give a lot of credit even to the pilots and captain who put out a mayday, what they call an emergency, that we are going to hit the bridge. And because there was workers on the bridge, they had a police officer and a police officer on each side of the bridge, and they shut down the bridge right away, which was probably saved lives. So it could have been a lot worse of a disaster. As disasters go, the Coast Guard always runs water disasters. They're what they call the on-scene commander. The Coast Guard will come in, take over, no matter if it's no matter naval operations, if it's a water operation with rescue of any sort, the United States Coast Guard will assume what they call on-scene commander. So what they did, after about 24 hours, a little bit more, they suspended the rescue operation, and then they changed it to a recovery operation. And that always happens. We still don't know for fact that there's not maybe another car under the metal. I also understand all the search and rescue workers who were there and the toll it's going to have on them. The people who are searching for people, the captain, the pilots of that ship, even the people on the bow of the ship, maybe they thought they can get the anchor quicker in the water. Although they had sonar down there already, and they did detect cars, and they accounted for most people, which is important. You know, when I think about the loved ones lost on a case like this. So there were 6 young men, in my view, 6 young men, had no idea when they got up in the morning. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything. They were literally working the night shift to support their families. And just like that, it goes to show you, live your life, because at any moment something can happen and you're not here anymore. But I want to let the people know who lost loved ones in this way. You know, time heals all wounds. You had people who were supporting their families in good ways. It wasn't a person who was a drunk driver and you could get mad at anybody. I know they're disappointed. I know they're going to try to search for answers, as most people do. And we used to console a lot of people who lost other loved ones on boat accidents, stuff like that. When there's something else involved, whether it's drugs or alcohol or doing stupidity, that's one thing. This is just a pure accident. And it is, if you want to call it this, hey, it's your time. God bring you up, it's your time.